Replacing a broken variable inductor on a York JCB861 CB radio. Hi guys, welcome back to the channel. So we're looking at the PA section, or part of it anyway, of a Cybernet 134 chassis. This is in a York JCB861. Now if we look at the green core, which is L9, you'll be able to see that it is broken because of the screwdriver expert. So I can't actually physically turn that. I do have a 3D printed trim tool that I did specifically for this purpose, and it turns the other two, that one there and that one there, perfectly fine. I'm zoomed in a bit so you can actually see this a bit better. Not sure how well it's focusing, but you can just see that that's cracked. So if I put my tool in there, that ain't turning, I shouldn't think. I do have a tool. I actually literally just had it. I had to move it away from my tea mug. Otherwise, because it's made of PLA, it would melt. Because I've got a cup of tea as well. Which is always nice. So, I could demonstrate that I can't turn that if I could find the tool that I literally just had. Oh well, these things don't quite go to plan when you're recording. Just see if we can see that a bit better. Yeah, I think we can actually. Yeah, this is why you don't ram screwdrivers in these cores, it breaks them. Because that's definitely broken. I can't adjust that, and part of the procedure to set this up is to balance it on those to make sure that it's not exceeding 4 watts on the 40 channels. So you turn them up to maximum first and then back them off. I believe is the process to do that. And obviously I can't do that because that is broken. But what I can do is show you how much power it's actually doing now on a calibrated meter. So I'll just pause the video while I show you that. So here's the meter, and surprisingly that's where the trimming tool was. It's on top of the meter. This meter's been calibrated against a radio that I know does 4 watts. Which means it'll tell me what this one's doing. So we're on the 20 watt range. Let's move this wire out of the way if we can. There we go. So 4's the last mark before the 5. We're on channel 20 on the radio. I'll show you that. So if I key this up now that's cooled down a bit. That's actually pretty close to 5. That needs to come down. So let's try that on the extreme ends of the band. It's channel 1. Between the 4 and the 5, we don't want that. Channel 40. Try that again. Quite close to the 5. That needs to be sorted then. Now, I also have another Cybernet based radio. So obviously it's going to be the same inside. It's going to be Cybernet 134. And that behind me is a Harvard 420M that was converted to 10 meters. But I've had no luck in getting it working back where it's supposed to be. There's something not quite right, and all the voltages on the LC7137 are wrong, and I'm worried the chip might be fried. So I don't think there's anything I can do with that because it's quite difficult to impossible to get hold of LC7137 synthesizers. Without going into loads of depth with it, then I don't think there's much I can do with it. So I want to give this one a sporting chance to actually be working. And I took out of the Harvard this. This is the L9 coil. And it's open-ended at that end, so that's the little ferrite slug in there. And on this one, it's intact. That's why I removed it. So it gives this radio a better chance. Now this radio doesn't have a working speaker, it came to me that way. The speaker's open circuit, so it would need a new speaker. The one out of that Harvard is too big for this. Have another mouthful of tea there. This, I believe, is a 3-inch speaker in these, and I think it's a 3.5 inch in that Harvard 420M behind me. It's a shame, but there's not really a lot I can do. The ceramic filter out of that one's ended up in my Uniden UniAce 100 and has got that working a little bit better than it was on the receiver. Most of the stuff's been done in this. I've already checked the VCO on this and I've already put it more or less onto frequency. It just needs a tune up really. So that's what I shall do. But the first thing I'll need to do is I'll need to put this, which is slightly out of focus because I'm focused to somewhere else, into place the broken one. Assuming I can get the broken one out. So this would have to go over to my bench behind me and have that core in there. We can bring it back, the microphone's in the way, but we'll bring the camera back over there. So that one there, the green one, L9, that would have to be taken out and replaced. This radio's got a standard coffin mic with it. I want to get it working so I can actually sell it on, but I need to make sure it's working properly, if you get what I mean there. So that comes out, that green one, and that new green one will go in. Hopefully, with a bit of luck, that'll get this radio working to where I want it. I might have to change the low power preset as well, because there seems to be something wrong with that. That's just tucked in there. Because I've tried switch cleaner in it, and it still doesn't work right, so I might have to swipe the one out of the Harvard 420M. I really don't want to take parts off that, but unfortunately that radio doesn't work properly and I've had no luck getting it going. So I think I should put the parts to use in something that I know works. So I'll crack on with that. Okay, radio is back on my test bench. So that's the power meter next to it. So if we go back in here, there is the inductor now changed over, and you should be able to see, if I can get the camera in the right place, that would be useful. It's a bit difficult when there's a big dead cat type microphone on here. There we go. The inductor's changed. I've tested it. It's in circuit. It's adjusting the power output. So we're on channel 20. I'm going to have to change the focus down a bit. There we go. The power has actually dropped a bit with regards to where it should be at. So let's go to the extremities. So I'm just going to change this to channel 40. Close to the 4 watts on channel 40. Channel 1. Oh, it's a bit difficult because I'm holding the camera, I'm not got it on a tripod. So again, close to the 4 watts. It's not quite where I want it. I do have the service manual for this. Well, it's actually a Rotel RVC240 service manual. And therefore I can actually get the transmitter aligned properly. So rather than do that all on camera, because you'll have seen that hundreds of times if you watch UK FM CB radio servicing, I'll do that all off camera and see where we get. So remember, this meter here is calibrated against a Midland 3001 that actually was serviced by UK FM CB radio servicing and by Tango 21 himself. So therefore, if this says 4 watts, then it's about the same as what that's doing. So I'll see how much I can get out of it. Okay, so with reference from the Rotel RVC240 service manual, because it's basically the same innards between all these Cybernet sets, there's just some radios have extra coils or less coils depending on the specification, which in this case this one is. One of the lower specification ones just has the basics you need, which is the power on off, volume squelch, low power to comply with a CB2781, and a tone control, which is quite nice. I've not tried the tone control because I actually haven't used this thing on air, so I don't know whether it's any good or not on receive. So this was more or less to getting the transmitter going in this. And if we go to the meter, looks like it's just a shade over the 4 on channel 20. So I could probably stand to probably just go back through that again until we get what we want. So I'll do that off camera. Okay, so I've gone back through that transmitter. And channel 20, there's a wire in the way, which is not really helpful. We are just a shade over 4, but nothing to write home about. That's not going to make any blind bit of difference. The radio's had a little bit of time to cool down, because thrashing the PA like that just causes it to heat up. Looking at that, shade over the 4, and it's about the same again. So it's balanced, it's doing the 4 watts it's meant to do. So I've been through the transmitter, and the transmitter is this one, and this one tucked behind the wire, and then obviously the 3 in there, which you've got to balance to avoid smoke coming out of it, apparently. It does get hot, but it will regulate itself down. So what you've got to do with these 3 in here, the process is you set them all 3 to maximum on your power meter. As long as it's accurate, you should be fine. And then you back this one off here, this one clockwise for 4.4 according to the service manual, and then you drop this one to, service manual says 3.8, but because 4's the legal limit, we just drop it to 4. And that's the transmitter, and that is now more or less working. There's just one slight little niggle I have with it. So we'll go back to channel 20. Okey-dokey. So we're now on channel 20. Let's pop that into low power. And I'll pop the meter down. This isn't going to be too accurate on this range, but as you can see, low power's not really working very well. It's either on or off. So if I can find a trimming tool to put into the preset, this one should fit. I can turn the preset. However, the preset's very jumpy, so I'm going to key this up between here like that. That should now be in transmit. So yeah, that's a very jumpy preset, but it is sort of working. So that's slightly over. We want it to be at 400 milliwatts, which is 10 decibels down. So that would be about roughly there. So if I come off that, that's now 400 milliwatts, and I will check that. So I've got the meter here. I take that back into, ooh, that's a bit stiff, that switch. There we go. If I put that back into the normal mode, we should be just on the 4 on the bottom. It's slightly over that, so I'm going to have to back it off. So I know where the preset for that is as well, which is helpful. The preset for that is just tucked in the corner here. That one. Just under the white wire. Just try not to have it transmitting while I'm poking at it. So I'll put it back, the meter back onto the normal scale. So we're looking at this meter here. Let's see. There we go. If I can get that into the preset. I'd say we're about right at that. Let's just take that off. Now the only bits I can't do for the transmitter, well, the only bit I can't do with the transmitter is the deviation, because at this present moment in time I don't have a deviation meter. But to set deviation up, you'd set this one behind the capacitor here to the centre. This is how Richard does it anyway. And then adjust that until you get 2.2 to 2.5 on your deviation meter. And like I say, I don't have one of those at the moment. So that's something that's on my list of things to get. But I've got the transmitter on this more or less sorted, because this is one I want to try and sell on. So as long as everything's working on it, then that's fine. And obviously I'll test everything to make sure it's fine. I'm not going to do the receiver on this video. So this was just me basically showing that I've basically changed a broken core out, which we've got here. And now we can see, now it's out of the radio, we can just see how bad it is. It's broken right through. So I can't even remove it from inside there. Well, I probably could, but I don't know. Anyway, hope that was of some interest to some people. I'm not sure you can get these cores replacement parts. I know Knights had them at one point, but they're sold out now, and I'm pretty sure that you're not going to be able to get them from Knights anymore. So I'm pretty sure the only place you can find these is on scrap chassis, which is a bit of a shame. So I'm going to get some screws for this ordered anyway, because I want to put some screws in it, some nice new screws, and obviously tidy it up a bit before I move it on. Also, that squelch control's a bit loose, so I'll have to work on that, fixing that as well. But now I've got the transmitter to some degree of functioning properly, I'm quite pleased. So that's basically me changing a broken core out on a York JCB861 and retuning the transmitter. Whether I get the remains of the broken core out of this inductor that I've got in my hand, I'll bring it back in. Because you can see it's broken all the way through, thanks to the screwdriver expert. And I've tried to get some of it out, and it ain't coming out in a hurry. I'm actually quite pleased. Did mean another radio's had to sacrifice itself for this, but it wasn't working anyway, and at the end of the day, what can you do? I'll just double check that low power's working properly still, because obviously that preset's a bit questionable. Yeah, it's dropped again, so I think there's something not quite right with that preset. So that's something I'll probably look at off camera. Actually, let me just check that's in the right mode first. That's actually fine. That's just me, I didn't have the meter in the right mode. There we go. Anyway, 7.3 for now. I'll catch you in the next one. Bonus extra footage. Anyway, because I can. So here we go. I've managed to get that core out of there. And that's pretty much all the remains of it. Some of it went on the floor. But this is why you don't put screwdrivers in these cores, because that is what happens. And now I've got the ferrite out. That means I could probably use that for something else if I can get a new ferrite slug to put in there. But at the moment, I don't think I've got a spare ferrite slug for it. And it tends to be that one that gets broken anyway, I believe. I believe it's the green one that gets broken. Someone can correct me on that if I'm wrong. But that is the state of that. And this is why I absolutely despise the screwdriver experts, because they seem to think that sticking a screwdriver in these ceramic ferrite cores is a good idea. No, you use a proper trim tool. Mine's actually snapped. Well, this isn't quite a proper one, but it was a 3D printed one that I designed myself for this purpose, which it works fine. But unfortunately, that one snapped. So not long after I stopped the video before and trying to get the remains of that out, so that doesn't help. But it's okay, because I can just 3D print another one. And if that's replaceable, I don't know what the diameter or anything of that is. I'd have to work out the inside diameter of the inductor itself. But if I can find a source of those cores, it would be quite useful, because that way I can repair these just by taking them out and removing the remains. And sticking them back in the radio, because we've got here now a radio that transmits at 4 watts perfectly fine. He says, finding it's actually on the low power mode, and yeah. And again, just for argument, there we go. Right, I'm really off this time. 7.3 for now. And don't stick screwdrivers inside CB radios, or any radios actually, to try and tune them. It just doesn't end well. 7.3.